Um, Basically, the story is that about 2 months ago, I think last month, Ashok Gulati sir was talking about, he wanted to do some forestation. He was looking for reforestation, wanted to know what kind of plants and trees we can put up in different places. So, he was asking for suggestions for the same. That's when I came up with this, I started researching this topic on different kind of trees that you need for a neighborhood. And because I'm a heritage buff, I really like doing Indian heritage. And I came up with this, thinking of Kalpadrumam, that is in the Swarga, in Indra's forest, all the trees which were the Kalpa Brikshas. I did some research on them. That is what I would be presenting, some bit of it today. So, exploring the most amazing creatures on the planet. I know all of us here are plant buffs. We like gardens, but trees are the most amazing creatures on the planet. And here are some reasons why. Of course, they are the most generous beings. They don't really take too much from us. About a 40-foot tree, which is, first or second floor size tree, will be able to give you 60 cubic feet of oxygen, with taking almost nothing from you. Will you give you, oxygen for at least 40 people. So they are the most generous beings. Not only us, they take care of birds, butterflies, animals, all kinds of beings while they exist. And after they exist, they still give us furniture. They give us so much. They are also the strongest, oldest beings of this planet. They have survived 2 extinction cycles. So you would realize that, whether it was the ice age, the dinosaurs, the great deluge, everything, the trees are the ones. Ever since there was land, there were trees, and they survived. So they have so much to tell us about survival. Now, a little more about trees. Exploring the most amazing creatures on this planet. Trees are the most intelligent beings. Now, how do I think that they are intelligent? The roots of the tree can go to 30 to 60 feet or 60 meters on all directions looking for water. They know they can go very deep, they can go very far. And then the leaves, they spread themselves out in particular manners. Like when we look at a tree, we say, the leaves of different trees don't touch each other even in a forest. Have you wondered why? Because they don't want to share their kitchens. They want their kitchens to be separate. I don't want to share my minerals and my sunshine and my water with you. So you see, all those leaves of different trees are separated from each other. At the same time, the roots, you cannot say, when they are gossiping a lot, and that gossip happens under the soil. How does it happen? The roots of the trees, they are all intermeshed under the soil. They are all intermeshed with each other. There are mother trees. Most of the trees I'm going to be speaking to you today about are mother trees. They are the mother trees of that of the forest, and they actually support the entire ecosphere in that area. And they have these beautiful roots, and each of these roots have a fungus that grows over them, which is called the mycelial network, the mycelial fungus. And this fungus is like our nerves. They talk to each other, they send out messages, and they share resources, they share information, and they gossip quite a bit. Now, not only through the roots, they also send out smells. There are smells of the day, there are smells of the night. There are beings through their squirrels, through their ants, through their nocturnal beings, through their birds, they share information. I'm going to be exploring some of that as well in today's program. So first thing is, I'm going back to something that we had discussed when we did with plants. Very similarly, we are going to look at a daily routine of a tree. How does a daily routine of a tree look like? The trees wake up around 4 o'clock in the morning, Brahma Muhurtam. They are very good with that. You will hear the cacophony of birds. So that's how you know the tree is also waking up. That is when the change happens. So the trees wake up along with the birds at 4 o'clock in the morning. That is when they make the change. That is, if they are breathing out carbon dioxide, they start the change, or they stop the breathing and they start the change to giving out oxygen around 4 a.m. That is when the birds also start talking. That's when the nocturnal beings, that is, if there are worms and things like that, they're all returning home. So that's when, if a bird wakes up at that time, then the early bird gets the worm. 6 a.m. The kitchen opens in the tree. So basically all the leaves, if they are curling up or they are moving, the leaves are opening up. The stomata, or the different pores on the leaves are opening up, and then they are started taking, they are started absorbing the light, because the dawn light is coming in, and then they start uh, creating, from the resources that they have, the water, the minerals that they have collected, they have started making their energy. Around 9:30, 10, the cooking is done and the nectar reaches the flowers. So by about 8:39, the flowers start blooming. Then that is when you will have all your bhavras, your butterflies and birds and all, which will come, the nectar drinking birds will come into the trees, or whatever trees we do have, and all the butterflies start entering. So the nectar reaches the flowers. Then after around 11:30, 12 is when the energy starts moving downwards. So the starch that they have formed, that starts moving downwards through the trunk to the different parts of the tree that needs it. So the energy movement happens downwards from, it was in through the night, the energy, the water and everything, by 6 a.m. the water has gone up. Now the energy or the starch starts moving towards different parts of the tree. And then around 4:35, 6 o'clock evening is when their gossip starts. So once every part of the tree is energized, then they have the time to share information with their friends. So they are out at tea time. They are going around to their roots are, sending out messages all over the forest. What happened? There are these worms. There are these new birds in my tree today. There is these monkeys which are coming towards this place. There are people coming in. All this information goes through the mycelial network. Some tree is dying, some tree is not dying. They will be talking to each other about it. So this is the time that in our olden days, a lot of our elders used to tell us that you should return home at this time. You shouldn't be under a tree because the tree is gossiping at that time. So most of the time they say, don't sit under the tree at dusk. After dusk, you don't sit under the tree. Now, after the sun is completely set, post 7:38, is when the tree sap starts coming out. The tree leaves out pheromones and it leaves out sap, which encourages the nocturnal visitors, which means if a tree has these, you have these silver bug, you have the soil bugs, and you have which come out, and or termites that are attacking, they send out smells. The tree smell, there's a night smell that comes out that will invite the wasps to come and eat the worms, and it will invite the snakes to come in. It will invite the moles, the rats. So all the nocturnal beings, the tree enjoys even those, not just the morning visitors, it enjoys the nocturnal visitors. So there is a night smell. In fact, if you go into a forest in the night, there's a night smell which the forest has, which is completely different from the day smell. And then, of course, normally between 12 and 3 o'clock, 3:34 in the morning is when the tree rests. So even like we have this, a lot of people tell us about the peepal tree. The peepal tree gives oxygen throughout the day. Actually, it doesn't. Around about an hour or so in the middle of the night, it does give out a bit of carbon dioxide. It has a different type of photosynthesis as other plants. So the amount of carbon dioxide it gives out is a lot lesser than most other plants, that it gives out most and more oxygen than most other plants. So the people tree is like that. So all trees replenish around that, and that's why it's called like the Asura Kalam. It's called like the time when you are not supposed to be outside under a tree. Now, having said that, you can, from now you could have realized that I have taken a lot of the stories from our heritage, from our mythological stories, and the Indian stories and the Indian thing came, the Indian culture had a lot of, we use all those terms also, and we are huge nature worshippers. Not just us, even, you know, most parts of the world, most religions in the world, the old religions, all have nature beings, which all their gods were nature in different ways. I'm just going to be showing you a bit of classification of the nature. These are yakshas and yakshis. So the devas and asuras, are basically the elements in our body, the water, the agni, the nervous system. So for example, when you have Indra, uh, Indra is the god of the devas, and that is, you know, the like our eyesight, all our senses. So the deva are the elements, or the agni. All these are the elements that need to be nurtured, that you need to feed them. And the asuras, like the Varunas, Varuna is considered an asura. Varuna is water. Water needs to be controlled. The rasa, which is like your lymph nodes, your hormones, all these need to be controlled. So the asuras need to be controlled. The devas are the elements that need to be nurtured. Then we had the Gandharvas. Now the Gandharvas and Apsaras, we knew that they were nature beings. Gandharvas are those which are the beings which were connected to smell. Gandharvas. They were connected to smell. And also you realize that smell has the element of earth. The earth element is connected to smell. So, or Mooladhara. So the beings are like bees, bhavre, you know, the beetles, and hummingbirds, chameleons, lizards. All these are the Gandharvas. And then you have the Apsaras. Apsaras are Apahasuras. Basically, Apaha is water. So the water beings, they were married to the water beings, and the water beings are the like dolphins, water mammals, like, you know, turtles and dolphins. All these were considered, even the rivers were considered as apsaras. So the water beings were married to the earth beings, which were the Gandharvas. And then you had, of course, the Nagas, the Pakshis, the Pashus. And then, of course, Yakshis are the trees, of course. So the, like, along with the snake and the bird and the beings, you have the Yakshas and Yakshis, which are mainly the trees and the minerals under the trees. So like Kubera is the mineral of all the diamonds and different kinds of precious stones is Kubera. Like that. And Yakshis are different kinds of trees. Today I'm going to be looking at all the different kind of Yakshis. Let's see how the trees were depicted in our ancient times. Even all the names of all the continents in the Puranic times were trees. So they were based on the different kinds of plaksha. Plaksha is a fig. So they were based on the different kind of fig trees that grew across the world. Ours was, you know, Asia was called the Jambu Dvipa. Or you had the Kusha Dvipa, which was, you know, a lot of Europe and Mediterranean were all Kusha Dvipa types of grass. Then you had the Shamali Dvipa, which is silk cotton tree was the Shamali Dvipa. And then you had the Pushkara Dvipa, which was, you know, again, Russia, China, where the people trees grew. So you had or you had the Kroncha Dvipa again, which was Europe, but Kronchas are actually cranes. So where the cranes were mostly the Kroncha Dvipa. So again, I'm going to talk about the Vriksha Devatas. I begin with Jagannatha, the god of the world. Now, if there are any Odiyas here, they will realize that your Jagannatha is, the Daru is basically a Neema Daru. That is, it's the neem tree. Jagannatha is always made out of the neem tree. And he says, Nimadha Sarva Varnam vriksha sadharana samartha, which means everyone, every varna of people need the neem tree for their health. And it is considered that in the Kali Yuga, you need the neem tree. Another place where the neem tree was very, very important was the Sthala Vriksham. Like I'm just taking an example of my own family. My family, the Kuladevata is Vaidishwaran. And in Vaidishwaran, there is this huge big neem tree there, which, when the scientists research, there is the Sthala Vriksham. Sthala Purana tells you about how that tree was a Kadamba in the Treta Yuga, then it was a Bilva, then it was a Vagula tree. The Vagula has these little white plasticky looking flowers, which they used to wear whenever they traveled. It looks like the Sudarshana Chakra, and they used to wear it on their hair when they travel, so that it will never dry up. It's a plastic looking uh, flower, and that uh, when people they would say, if you get fever, you will take out 1 or 2 flowers, boil it and drink it. It was like paracetamol. Can you imagine? That was the intelligence of the people who had it. And of course, in the present yuga, it exists as a neem tree. When the researchers dug up the soil underneath, they realized that it has the roots of all these trees, and that is what makes that soil Vaidishwaran makes that soil, uh, you know, as medicine, which was given as medicine to people to, cure many will. Today, I'm going to be talking about different kinds of kalpa vrikshams. Basically, about 5 or 6 is what out of the 25, 30, which were considered the vrikshas which were there in your, which were there in Indra's garden. Why I chose that was because these are the trees which protect the environment, which you need to not have. We are not talking about trees that you need to have inside your house. We are talking about trees that you need to have in the society around you, in the grama. They are all the grama vrikshams. If you have this vriksham, it will protect you. And that's what I'm going to be presenting today. The first one I'm going to take is the Aranyani. The Aranyani is Katyayani, who is Kejari, who's basically the Kejari tree, the Shani tree. It's called Vanni, it's called Bunni, it's called Jammi. And these are some of the your Katyayani's pictures in the Indus Valley tablets. So the Devi of the Indus Valley, Aranyani, was Katyayani, and you would see her with a tiger. The Shami tree is also the state tree of Rajasthan. It was one of the trees which, prompted in 1563, you had the Bishnoi community. There was this Amrita Devi and the ladies who started that Chipko movement. They held themselves onto the tree and gave up their lives for the tree. And I'm going to tell you about how it is. And then, of course, in 1972, the same kind of Chipko movement was done in the Deodar trees in Himachal. Now, Katyayani, this is how the Kejari tree looks. It has these beans or peas, which are, called sangri. They have these little beautiful green leaves, and it is a tree. Now, how do you know? Suppose you are looking somewhere for a jammi tree, where will you look? When you look for a jammi tree, it will normally be in the middle of a pond or a lake, or next to it, there will be a water body. So in the olden days, it was told that when you see a jammi tree, you put you make a small depression under that, and these kings, and when they want to build water bodies, or when that was part of their karma, they would build a water body for the village. They would find a jammi tree, and under that they would make a depression, and automatically water would come and collect there. And today also you will find a lot of these jammi trees in the in paddy fields and things like that. Now, according to astrology, it represents Shani. And Shani, if you look at in the Vastu, is where Varuna. So Shani's best friend is Varuna, water. See, it's somewhere all the connections come in. In Ramayana and Mahabharata, again, the Shami tree was very important. How? Because Rama used to say, he used to build in fact, the first home he ever built for Sita, in it, he built the roof with the Shami tree on top of it. his, again, because he wanted to make her feel rich. So he built it with the Shami tree. Why? Because his Purvaj, his ancestor Raghu, when he had a fight with Kubera, and he said, when he had a fight, Kubera filled up his treasury, which was in the middle of the Shami forest, with gold. So it's considered as gold. And then in the Mahabharata story, the Pandavas had tied up their weapons in the Shami tree because they thought it will protect them. So both Rama and Pandavas, they all looked at the Shami tree before they went for their war, and they said they won the war because they carried a Shami tree with them. In Vijayadashami, in our Mysore Vijayadashami, in fact, it starts, the Dashara festival starts at the Bani Mantapa, the Bani Mantapa parade grounds, because again, the Maharaja of Mysore, he will go and start his procession at the Bani tree. He'll collect, a one Bani tree, he'll carry a bark or a branch of it along with him throughout the Dashara festival, take it into his palace, and then only along with that tree in his hand, he will take it into his palace. Now, why is he doing that? Because it was considered as Bangaram. That is, in Vijayadashami day, people would give it to each other as Bangaram. Why would they give it to them? Because when you take those leaves and you put it in a pot and leave it, after that you put any seed, it will make that soil so nutritious that you put any seed on that, in that, wherever there are some Shami leaves, all those trees, that particular plant will grow very beautifully and will give you like a nice harvest. So people used to carry the Bangaram with them. So even today, if you see in whether it is Karnataka or it is in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, in all over South India, and then of course Rajasthan and UAE, again, the national tree of UAE, the national tree of some certain African, Sudan, and the African countries, all is the same Shami tree. And Telangana's a state tree, Rajasthan state tree, is all the Shami tree. Why? Again, because it has a tap root. If it is grown, this is one of the only Kalpa Vrikshas other than the Parijata, which can be grown inside the house. Why? Because, it has a tap root. It has a root that does not spread. It has a tap root. It goes straight down, and the soil around it, it keeps the soil safe. So it doesn't let the soil erosion. So, and then collects water there very much. It needs less water for itself, but all the beings around it make sure that there is always water there, which is why it was considered as equivalent of gold. And then in the yagya, in the olden days, when they had to make fire, the Shami tree wood is very hard, and the banyan tree wood or a peepal tree wood is very soft. So they used to rub it together, and they were considered, like Shami was considered as Katyayani, and banyan was considered as Shiva. When you rub them together, you get the fire for the yagya. So it was a very important, they were always put together. Even today, when we do Havan, they ask you to have these two Shami sticks, they call it, which is a very important part of a Havan. Yes, I talked to you about the Shami tree. When you have those leaves, you put it, and there you will get the harvest. It's so nutritious that it's a great harvest. But again, like most of the other Kalpa Vrikshas, I'm going to be talking to that about later also. It is a great weather forecast. So around May, June, if based on the number of fruits and flowers that come in Rajasthan, or especially places which have water deficiency, like say Telangana, that is where my hometown is. So in Telangana, if the Shami tree flowers enough, then you know that there is going to be a good rainfall that particular thing. There are other trees also which are weather indicators. So based on the amount of sangri, the fruits that you see, and that it was considered, the farmers would get prepared for how the weather is going to be that particular month. It's the beginning, like in May, June, before Ashadam, they will see how many flowers and fruits are there on that tree to realize how the rest of their year is going to be. So it was considered a great weather forecast. The pea pods are called sangri, again, very tasty and it was in Rajasthan alone. When you don't get any other food, the sangri pods are considered a very, very important food source, very high protein food source. you have their sister trees. Like if you see somewhere where there is not much of bunny trees, you will find also trees which are like kikar, and babul. All of them have these very similar pods. And if in even in like you even in Karnataka we get this goriti kira curry. It is like a small pod, and when you eat that pod, they say you'll get enough protein for the whole year. Again, May, June time, you will get all these pods in the village markets. The next one, of course, we finished with Katyayani. I will go to the husband, who is like the peepal tree, and the or the banyan tree. Both of them, they are different, but they both are considered, Shiva, Vishnu, and things like that. So the peepal tree is a ficus plant which is considered very sacred. If you see in the Indus Valley civilization, that was considered the male tree. So the Kejari was the female tree who was married to Pashupati, who was always shown in the Indus Valley civilization with the peepal tree. So you can see it was there in their pottery, was there on their seals. Again, it is considered a very important tree. It's the Bodhi tree, very important for Jains, for Buddhists. It was considered a Kalpa Vriksha, again, because it gives the maximum amount of oxygen. Throughout the day, it gives the maximum number of oxygen, other than maybe maybe 1 hour in the night that it does not give, but the rest of the time it is. So when you go around it, it's the simplest thing. Where people who are of marriageable age, or they used to make even schools, they would have them under these trees, mainly because if you go around that tree, you're going to get that much oxygen. Those peas, those seeds, when they fall on you, they are great. That soil, it removes all the bad, the worms and germs which are there in that soil around it. Also, it cleans up. So when you walk around this peepal tree, it gives you more energy and good health, which is why it was considered a very religious tree. It is considered a very religious tree. This is the Mahabodhi tree, under which great Gautama Buddha got his nirvana. Again, like I said, it's there in most temples, you will find a peepal tree where people would tie, and especially they say that for your husband, when you want to pray for your husband, when you want to pray for your family, you would tie a thread around the peepal tree and walk around it, because again, not only will you get that strength and oxygen, but it's like a blessing for your family. This is a Vidura Ashwatha tree. It's considered one of the oldest trees in India, peepal tree in India. This is very close to Bangalore, actually. It's in Chikbalapur. It was considered, it's almost 1,500. Some people say 1,000, some people say it's probably older. It's near Chikbalapur, and it's a not very well known, but it is one of the oldest trees in the world, like oldest peepal trees in the world. And of course, the peepal tree today, when you don't have too many Kejari, like in the Indus Valley civilization time, the peepal tree would be married off to a Kejari tree. In today's time, the Kejari tree has been taken over by, because in our grounds, we have the neem tree. So we get the peepal tree married to the neem tree. So it's tied up together. They both get along very well with each other. You can see here, even without them being tied up together, they grow very well together. Like father and mother, they will take care of us. So in a lot of temples, you will find the neem tree, which is married off to the peepal tree. The next one is the banyan tree, the national tree of India. The banyan tree. The banyan tree, you will realize, with these beautiful red color berries that it has. It was connected to Lord Krishna. He's called Vatapatra Sai. They say that the Krishna was found in the when Markandeya asked in the storm, he was looking for God. He found it on the Vatapatra. It is connected to knowledge. The banyan tree is connected to knowledge. Any guesses from the audience? Why do you think it's connected to knowledge? Do you want to unmute and say? Right. So Dakshina Murti, that is, or you could type it in the chat. The Vatapatra, the Vata is where, again, Savitri, obviously, her son Satyavan, she left him there, and it kept him. They say that the banyan tree kept his soul alive. Now, if you see from what I told you, scientifically speaking, I was telling you that the roots of the plant has a mycelial network. It has a nervous net. It has these fungi which is covering it, and this fungi works like like the nervous system, and it spreads across the different trees and goes into under the thing. But in a banyan tree, can you imagine, they have aerial roots, they have roots hanging all around you. All of those have that mycelial network, which means it's listening to you and it is giving you the information. So in the olden days, always schools in the morning, the schools would be under this tree. Of course, it's also there, it's considered Bargat is also considered, connected in some way to death, when, because it's also growing in the Shamshan Ghat. But it carries a lot of information with it because it has these hanging things, which is why, the judgments would be given, the olden courts, the panchayat, even today, panchayat will meet under a Bargat, under a banyan tree, including, the Buddha, even though he got the nirvana under the people tree, his most of his, when he would sit down and give his discourses, it would always be under a banyan tree, because the banyan tree, in different ways, even as a practitioner of meditation, I would realize that there is a lot more, there's a lot of information that you will get. It's like your ancestors and the tree spirits speak to you when you're under a banyan tree. And in some way, in my way, I always think that, say, like, say, for Dakshinamurti or any of the gods that we have, we would say I feel that the banyan tree carries that knowledge. It's listening to you all the time. And when you sit under it for a while, and then once it accepts you, it will give you the information that you want. And it will guide you. So it's like a god, so that's why it is considered, banyan tree is considered it's a life-giving tree. Of course, it's very invasive, and it stays on forever. Now, in Hindus, why people would not like the banyan trees, because again, we are very particular that there should be a death date, for everything there should be a death. Now, for the banyan tree, it goes on and on and on forever, which is why it is connected in some way to death for us. So that's why, like to Shiva and to death in different ways. Again, in the Christian community, it was considered Adam and Eve. They had they were connected to the banyan tree. The next tree which I wanted to talk about is the Shalajanjika, the sal tree. Now, this is the decorative sal. There are two types of sal. One is the redwood sal, which is what is used a lot in and then you have the decorative Naga Champa, which is also which is a cousin of the sal tree. So the Naga Champa is considered the tree goddess. So if you go to Rabindranath Tagore Shanti Niketan, or you go in the north again, so Orissa, Bengal, Nepal, all these places have a Shalabana. They call it Shalabana. There was even a whole very famous kingdom called Shalivahana, which was again founded under the sal tree. And Mahavira, our great Mahavira, the Jain Tirthankara, the 27th Tirthankara of the Jain, he was born with his mother holding the Shala tree. Of course, there are different kinds of trees, which, say somebody says Buddha was also, the mother held on to this, or a Ashoka tree. So why do they do that? Because, and every temple, every single temple or palace, everything would have a Shalajanjika. The Yakshi, Shalajanjika Yakshi is there in every single temple. When you go, you'll see it in the front door, or on the main pillar of the temple, or somewhere near the main entrance Vimana, you will find a Shalajanjika there. Why would you find a Shalajanjika? Because she is the pillar of strength. And the Shala tree is what you see in the construction sites. When you see those wood which they use to keep the in the construction site, the wood that is used to hold up the building, that is the sal tree. It's also used to make the front door. It's considered very auspicious to make the front door. Now, the best part about the Shalajanjika is considered strength, longevity, and And of course, protection. To a large extent, it is connected to protection. The reason why, again, Shalajanjika, they say if there is a flood in the forest or there is a flood in the village, if you have one plaksha tree, one fig tree, and you have one shala tree, they say that they can rebuild the entire village. It will rebuild the crops, because it will give that energy to the earth to rebuild the entire palace. So they say if only these two trees will stand, even if there is a fire, if there is a flood, for rebuilding the village, there will be, if these two trees are there, then that it is sure that that particular village will get protected. So they are always the grama devatas. They are considered the very important yakshi when it for protection is a Shalajanjika. I'm looking at some other yakshis and other kalpa vrikshas which are very, very important. One of them is Bilba. Bilba tree is considered very, very important. Some people say the Bilba tree is Shiva. Some people say it is Sati, because when you put the Sati leaves on top of the lingam, he is very happy that, Sati is on top of him. Now, Bilba tree is considered, it's like a steroid. It's considered for strength, for when you are going out and when you're traveling, for bone strength and muscle strength. It's a very strong, the leaves give you a lot of strength. Now, surprisingly, also why bilva is very important is like the people tree, even though it doesn't give oxygen throughout the day, but the amount of oxygen it gives is very high. It gives a lot of oxygen, like the amount of oxygen it gives out per day, is very, very high. Of course, you have the bale fruit that comes from it. So that particular drink is given to everyone in the family. They say at least that 1 month when you get that bale fruit, you should have the bale juice, which will give you enough strength for the whole year. It's literally a bone builder. It's high protein, and it's a bone builder and a disease fighter. And you have the mahua tree, of course, that is, mahua and kadamba are mainly connected with romance, and they are scents. You have the mahua scent and you have the kadamba scent, and of course with lot of parrots sit on it. That is, it's connected to to kama, to love. And Krishna is always, you say, Krishna would meet Radha under a kadamba tree, or like Meenakshi met Sundareshwar in Madurai in the kadamba forest. And of course, kadamba is used for perfume, used for making kungumam also to a large extent. So the kadamba and mahua, of course, mahua juice was considered for as an intoxicant. That perfume also was considered an intoxicant. Then you have the pungam tree, the pungemia. If you're a Bangalorean, you would see you have actually a Tubia rosea, the pink color one blooms, and you have the rain tree. On all our highways, you will find the rain tree, the gulmohar tree, and then pungemia is also a very big highway or main roads thing. Now, why pungam tree is not considered so beautiful, but it is very, very important part of that. Again, it is the sthala vriksham of the Kapalishwaran temple. Or in Dhanavantri, wherever there is a Dhanavantri temple, you will find or Srirangam again. They would find a Pugemia tree, which is the Pungam tree or the Pugemia tree. They say is very important to have at least 4 or 5 in your village. Why? Because when the leaves fall or when the flowers fall, and especially if it is with that rain tree, along with the rain tree flowers, those are hairy flowers, and then you have the pungemia. If they fall together on the ground, they will make sure that all the worms of the ground, all the diseases of the ground, and then it will replenish the ground before the rain falls. So in May, June, these flowers come out, and then they fall on the ground, and then it gets the place ready for the new season, for the new seeds once the rain falls. So pungemia is considered, even in Bangalore, I know a lot of environmentalists who go on the main roads, in Malleshwaram and all, and collect the pungemia flowers to put in their compost, so that it's like a natural fertilizer. It's a very, very strong. Of course, you have the Ambika, again considered like Shiva's wife, and which is the mango tree, the Ambika, Skandamata, Ambika is again one of the Kalpa Vrikshas. They consider, like the mango is obviously the national fruit of India, and Ambika is the again important yakshi for. They say that it will bring sweetness to the lives of this country. That's why Ambika is again like a mother who brings the sweetness to that family. Some of the other yakshis, if you see, you have Mohini. Now, again, why did I choose Mohini Yakshi? It is the plum tree, the Alu Bukhara tree. You see what you call as Alu Bukhara in North. So the plum tree, why is Mohini along with that? One clue would be if you know the the Basmasura story, if you know. He was a person who, if you put, he took a vow from Shiva saying if he puts his hand on someone, he would burn, they would burn and they would die and become ashes. But Mohini went and seduced him and danced with him and made him put the hand on top of him and burnt him himself. Now, why is, again, Alu Bukhara very important? When there is a forest fire, this is one of those trees which will not get burnt. That is why she can fight Basmasura, which is why Mohini tree was considered a very important yakshi. Then you had the Sita Ashoka again. You have the Ashoka cousin, that is a similar looking tree which we use as border trees in our own homes, which is again a dust collector. But the Sita Ashoka was again one of the trees under which you found Sita Mata. The Hanuman found Sita Mata under the Sita Ashoka tree or Ashoka Vana in Sri Lanka. Why Sita Ashoka is considered a very important tree is, again, in the olden days, when they had the Tej, they would ask the woman of the house to dress up very beautifully, wear alta on her feet, and she has to touch the Sita Ashoka tree. And they would say that within 1 month, it will bloom into red flowers. And that again, just like the Khejri tree, it is a weather. It shows the weather. If the Sita Ashoka blooms, you will get a very good monsoon. Your summer will not be too bad and your monsoon will be very good. Even I have one in my backyard, and I know before Sri Ram Navami, that flower will be completely dried. There will be autumn. It will completely, all the leaves will fall off, everything. And correctly, just before, when you have the Basant Panchami, that one day the leaves will start coming out, and on just before Sri Ram Navami, it will be full of those orange flowers, the Sita Ashoka. So it's a weather indicator. The more number of flowers, the more rain you're going to have. So of course you had the queen or whoever was the main courtesan of that particular kingdom. The king used to say, go to the Ashoka Vana and you touch it with your foot. And if she's a pavitra or a fertile lady, it would bloom. They would say that the tree would bloom. So it's a weather indicator. Same with Parijata. Again, the Jain Tirthankara and the Parijata Yakshi were considered a very important. Again, it's an indicator of worms. Yeah? If you have worms in your area, the Parijata will actually attract them to herself, and she herself will die, but she will not let any of the neighbors around her die, which is why she's again considered a very, very important yakshi. And of course, she was so pavitra that you can't pluck, you can't touch her. The flower will fall on the ground and you have to pluck her off from the ground only. Now, I spoke about all the good yakshis, but then in Kerala and a lot of around most of the places, we have some yakshis which are considered devils, who are considered evil yakshi. They have the yakshi tree, which is the devil tree, even though it features in our nakshatras, important trees in the nakshatra, but she is a devil yakshi. And then you have so these are all dangerous. If you look at them, plumeria, the Nandiyarvette, the Arli, all these flowers are considered very, very dangerous and poisonous. So have you ever wondered why these trees are considered, why do we still have them around us? Anybody can mention why in the chat box, or kind of, can you share? Any ideas why? Nobody's unmuting. If you pluck the flower, you will get milk out of the flower. Positive narratives. Yes, sir. Correct. Vishwanath, sir. Correct. Beautiful flowers. Correct. But then, it's their evil and good. Kanchana. Yes, ma'am. And then, of course, the devil tree was used. The wood is black in color. In the olden days, they used to use the devil tree to. And then, in my school, I realized one big thing about these trees. When the wind blows, no, you'll have all the other trees which will go shh. They'll go. And these particular trees, because they are very hollow inside, they actually make that noise. Ooh. So it sounds very crazy. But then they are very important. Now, one of the reasons why they are considered evil and they are good also at the same time, and why we all have it in our houses, like even including that, this Pala Yakshi tree in Kerala, they say, why do everyone have it? But they'll say it's a must. You should have it in the village. Now, I'm going to give you the reason why. These are huge dust collectors. In all our parks, you will find plumerias. In all our temples and parks, including the highway. Today, we were coming from Bangalore to Hyderabad. The whole highway is full of early this pink color.
It looks like. It's like
Yeah?
a shrub. No?
Yes, Mas? Yeah. And then Nandiyar Vatte, the yellow color. If you pluck them, you'll get milk. That's why they were called parlor trees. They all have this poisonous milk which comes out, gives you itching. But having said that, we still have them around us. Now, the reason why is one, and again, animals don't eat them. Birds will not sit on them. The only thing that will come is one particular moth or certain butterfly caterpillars, again, very deadly caterpillars, will come and eat the leaves now. Those are also very important for us. The reason why is because they are not just huge dust collectors, they are sound collectors. We forget about sound pollution. All of these thrive on sound. All of them thrive on sound. So that is why you will find, even if you have a early poo, this pink color, no, the oleander flower, if you have it inside your house also, it will not bloom so much. But if you go on the highway and see, it will be blooming in full bloom, or on a heavy road, on a heavy traffic road, you will always find them in full bloom. Why? Because they thrive on sound. They take in sound. They collect the sound. They have hollow, their leaves and their flowers are made in such a way that they collect sound, which is why we find plumeria also, the plumeria or Firangipani. You'll find them in parks, in the apartment buildings. They are excellent decorative plants because they will make sure that the sound doesn't travel too far. So if there are children playing around it, it will keep the sound. Same in temples. You will find these plants in the temple because you don't want the outside sound entering the temple. You put it outside your bedroom. You find any noisy place, somewhere where it's a lot of noise, you will find that these will bloom a lot because they will collect the sound and they will keep it to themselves. I do hope you have liked my presentation. This is the end of my presentation. And then I would love to have any of you, if you have anyone has anything to share, I would be very happy.
In an apartment, which of the trees do you recommend, please? In an odd, small,
no, you have a lot of decorate. See, all apartments. 1 minute, I'll just figure out this one. Amma, how do I stop sharing? I'm just trying to figure out how do I stop sharing. Yeah. Yes. Basically in an apartment, you have a lot of flowering trees because everyone likes flowering trees. But along with flowering trees, I always would say have a kejri tree, or have if you have kejri trees, if you have neem trees, if you have these, again, early poo trees, no, these pink trees are very popular. And then of course you have, because you want it decorative, but these kind of the plumeria and these, do not have these pores. What do you say? They don't have too much of pollen. So to stop the cold from happening, you should, when you have these trees which don't have too many seeds in them, it's very good. So most of the apartments, these are very important. In the village, like I said, in a village, you should have a sal tree. You should have a pungemia trees. So in your area, in 10 kilometers radius, at least one pungemia tree, one sal tree, one banyan tree. It should be there. It's being cut off now, but it's very important to have these trees to make sure that that it helps in the it protects that particular um, that particular society.
Thank you.
Anybody would like to share? I think I've done with my time. I've crossed my time as usual. Gone.
I have a question.
Yes, ma. Tell me.
Why do Jains not have figs as fruit?
Again, because the fig trees are what protects the entire. The fig is important for. And again, all right. Sorry, one more thing. When it's a people tree or like a tamarind tree, neem tree, people tree, a banyan tree, all these trees, they have a lot of wasps. So normally there is this particular bug, it's called there is a silver bug, or it's called a mud bug. It gets out, or termites for that matter. When there is a lot of termites in a particular area, these trees, these mother trees, they give out some pheromones. The pheromones are like sap. They give out a smell in the night, which attracts the wasps. And the wasps come and they eat up all these, which is why wasps are very important. But originally, these wasps live in these fig trees. They live in the fig tree. The wasps live in the fig tree, which is why they'll tell you never sleep under the bargat tree. No, never sleep. Even if you can sleep under a people tree, but you never sleep under a bargat tree. Again, a tamarind tree or a neem tree, like I said, the energy will start going downwards. The energy of a tamarind tree, after 12 o'clock, the energy, after it's made on the tree, it travels downwards. It's that sour or bitterness which is there in the tamarind tree or in the neem tree, which is why even they say, if you're after 12:31 also, if you're sitting under that tree, you will feel negative. You will get wrong thoughts because it's sending that energy to its roots. So you just have to, when you accept the tree, you enjoy it. Padma ma'am, you wanted to share something?
Hamsini, I really appreciate you because it's a different type of presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Whenever you visit any kshetra or any place or particularly temple, you should be curious to know a little about the Sthala Puranam and the Sthala Vriksham.
Correct.
And then
I do.
there you read all these details, so I really enjoyed. When I visited Sri Lanka years back, we happened to visit the place. It's the actual Ashokavana and the Shimshibar tree and all. Like that, everywhere you go, and all our Puranas have scientific background, like you're telling, different medicinal aspect, whatever it is. And I really enjoyed. It's a different type of presentation.